just wanted to say a few words ahead of this video because these videos come off the back of a huge lot of Eaglemoss Star Trek ships that I picked up recently. And so I've put up all the duplicates on eBay for you to have a look at, and I'll include links around and about the place. So if you've got any sort of interest in getting hold of a few of these to have a look at them for yourself, you can do so for a while at least, because it looks like they're not going to go flying off the shelves. I've tried to price them quite reasonably, so do please go and have a look. And without further ado, I will get on with the main video. Cheers. So this is the Eaglemoss armoured USS Voyager, and this spelling makes me smile because it reminds me that Eaglemoss magazines are written in America. Excuse me. For the Americans who might be watching this, in Britain we would spell this with a U, O-U-R-E-D. But I shall move on. So this one always amuses me somewhat because it's probably the least detailed Eaglemoss model ever, because it's almost completely silver. So you don't get any of the sort of normal detail that you would get from an Eaglemoss model. And of course this is a final iteration of Voyager. So it is an upgraded Intrepid class, and it's upgraded by use of an ablative generator and of course transphasic torpedoes. And basically this was Voyager Endgame, and the aim of this game was to get Voyager home before more crew members lost their lives, which was enabled, spoilers, by a time-travelling, Admiral Janeway. Good, it was a good episode, good way to finish it off, and this, I remember thinking, was cool as all heck when I first saw it. So the idea is that Admiral Janeway brings future tech with her back to the past into the Delta Quadrant to help Voyager get home faster by virtue of using a, I'm going to get this wrong, but basically a transwarp hub, I think it was called, that the Borg own. So of course, in order to get through said Borg, you need a lot of protection. And that's exactly what she's brought. So she's basically, and apparently, according to this magazine, interestingly, the Voyager crew actually developed this technology on their way home before she cheated. So they are kind of using something that the crew would have found anyway, only a little bit sooner. So as you can see here, the idea is that this armour is deployed, and we saw it earlier in the episode on Admiral Janeway's personal shuttle. And this armour just sort of deploys from emitters on the hull. And although Borg weapons can still damage it, they can't damage it very quickly, and it gives Voyager far more durability than her conventional shields, which means that she has time to respond, which means that she can lob transphasic torpedoes, which are an enhanced form of torpedo, again brought by Janeway into the past, at Borg cubes, and she can now single shot Borg cubes with a single one of these torpedoes. So it's a massive game changer. And because the Borg can't penetrate the armour, they have real problems in scanning it down, although by the end of the episode, I think it is being suggested that they are starting to adapt to it because its integrity starts to go down faster as the episode progresses. That was my reading of it anyway. But basically, the transphasic torpedoes they're not adapting to so well because they continue to be effective throughout the episode. And I know that there's extended universe canon and information on this and the way in which they sort of kept transphasic torpedoes back until they were desperately needed because they didn't want the Borg to adapt to them, of course, which makes perfect sense. But ultimately they do. But this is the irony that the ablative armour covers the entire hull. And it's an interesting thing because Starfleet ships from the Defiant or so onwards did start to use ablative armour. And you can see on the Sovereign class Enterprise that it's got a lot of more sort of dark hull plating on it. And those dark areas, I think, are the ablative armour that they started using. But the interesting thing about ablative armour, as I understand it, and I'm not an expert, is that it's supposed to blow up or by its nature, it sort of absorbs fire and is kind of, gotten rid of as it takes fire. So I'm not quite sure how this was able to stand up to quite so much Borg firepower, but obviously it was designed with that in mind. It's designed to resist them, for as long as possible. And there's the old transphasics being lobbed backwards at the Borg cubes. So the Borg Queen knows she's onto a bit of a losing streak here, and she actually pulls several cubes that are assaulting Voyager back because she realises that without being able to assimilate the technology, she can't fight it. So she backs off and sort of rethinks. So there's a little bit of blurb in this magazine about the various Borg Queens. Now, I thought maybe Susanna Thompson, who played the Voyager Borg Queen, had actually passed away, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Well, I think it was maybe the Borg Queen in Picard who's passed away. Could be that who I'm thinking of. I can't remember the actress's name, unfortunately. But various iterations you can see here of different. She was portrayed. Her character was very similar, but she was supposed to be different iterations of the same character. And as we know, she is a consistent nemesis for the Federation. And there's Admiral Jane. We're guessing her eventual comeuppance, but not without the Queen passing in the process. But yeah, it was. I smiled when I saw it. It's called Endgame, of course. The Avengers were not the first to use Endgame as a title by any stretch of the imagination. Korath, yes, yeah, that's right. Yes, so part of the episode was also Janeway using various offspring of the Voyager crew to get hold of a time travel device from a Klingon. And I think we see the Nagvar ships there again being used by this Klingon scientist who's fairly upset that his time travel device has been pinched by a Starfleet admiral. So basically, she's in violation of the temporal prime directive, of course. So I have no idea why she's allowed to get away with it, but she does, obviously. And things just progress from there because, of course, we then see sort of younger Admiral Janeway in, now I want to say it's First Contact, but I don't think it is. It might be Insurrection. But she does then appear briefly in one of the Star Trek films that follow up. So this is the model. But as you can see, because it is perfectly legitimately completely silver, you don't get any of the sort of normal window details or anything like that on it. It's got a little bit of sort of impulse engines, I think, coloured differently at the back, I would imagine. I've actually got a loose one of these that I've just popped up for auction. Yeah, there's a tiny little bit of red just on the impulse engines there. Don't know if you can make that out. There is a little bit with the eye of faith. But otherwise, it's just completely boring, quite frankly. Interestingly, from the screenshots I've just seen, the navigational deflector... No, that's not navigational deflector. What am I talking about? That's navigational deflector. But whatever is normally there has a more of a sort of flower arrangement to sort of conceal it, but they haven't quite managed to reproduce that at this scale, I don't think. So, but you can see the impulse engines are still around there. So that bit is sort of properly done there. It's a fairly light model actually as they go. I don't think there's a huge amount of metal in this one at all. But it is what it is. I wouldn't have chosen to get it. This was part of this job lot that I've sort of been selling the spares off from. And I've actually got one up loose at the moment for some strange reason. The job lot came with two, but it didn't come with a spare stand. So I am selling the loose one because there's no point in me hanging on to it particularly. But I hope somebody might want it without a stand. I would imagine that she just slots in back there like that. So it's pretty. It's not as pretty as those sort of mega expensive gold plated Eaglemoss models you can get, but nevertheless it is Voyager, and I suppose it is, if you're trying to particularly collect the Voyager ships, then it's a perfectly legitimate Voyager ship to get because it is the last appearance of Voyager pre-lower decks, I guess. So that's it for this one, and I'll see you again for another. Cheers for now.